The grid goes down on a Tuesday night. By midnight, the ATM 2 blocks away is dark. By morning, the nearest grocery store is stripped down to cornstarch and expired pasta. By day 3, your neighbor is at your door because his wife takes insulin and the pharmacy hasn't opened since Wednesday. That's not a war story. That's what Winter Storm Fern did to parts of the Southeast in 2025, and it lasted 6 days. Most of you already understand the principle. What I'm going to show you is the exact sequence veterans used to build the system, not what gear to buy, but what to address first, what to address second, and what most preppers never get to. The shelf life numbers are real, the counterfeit warnings are real, and the $35 move that most civilians never make, that's the payoff. It starts with water, and it starts the second the lights go out, not the next morning. Number 10, water storage. Most people know they need water. What they don't know is how fast they lose it. Municipal pump stations run on grid power. When the grid goes down, your city's water pressure has roughly 4 to 8 hours of gravity-fed reserve before it starts to drop. After that, the taps slow, then they stop. The window to act is narrow, and most people miss it because they're waiting for official confirmation that never comes fast enough. A water bob costs about $30. It's a food-grade PVC bladder that fits inside a standard bathtub and fills from the tap. 65 to 100 gallons depending on your tub size. Rated food safe for 16 weeks once sealed. That math works out to 25 days for a family of 4 at a gallon per person per day. Drinking and basic sanitation minimum. Buy 2, $60. Keep them in the linen closet, not the garage. When the first credible report of an extended outage hits, you fill them immediately, not after you've confirmed it's serious. Pressure is gone before the news confirms the outage. That's the veteran angle here. You don't wait for the situation to develop before you act on the indicators. Supplement that with 20 or more gallons of rotated 1-gallon food-grade HDPE jugs, the kind that cost $1 to $2 at any hardware or grocery store. Those are your year-round baseline. The water bob is your surge capacity. One more note. If the grid event involved any disruption to your municipal treatment plant, treat that water before you drink it. Backflow contamination is real when pumps lose pressure. The water in the bladder looks clean. That doesn't mean it is. Number 9, water filtration. Stored water runs out. Filtration doesn't. The Sawyer SP129 Squeeze is a hollow fiber filter rated to 0.1 micron absolute. It removes essentially all bacteria and protozoa from any water source. It's rated to 100,000 gallons, weighs 3 ounces, and it's made in the United States. For about $40, it turns any moving freshwater source into something you can drink. There's a catch nobody talks about on the forums. The Sawyer pouches that ship in the box delaminate. The laminate seams fail under squeeze pressure, and they do it quietly. The fix is immediate. Replace the pouch with a 1-liter smart water bottle, which threads directly onto the filter for about $2, or pair it with a Knock Vecto 2-liter bladder for around $18. The SP129 with the Knock Vecto kit runs about $65, and that failure mode disappears. The second piece matters just as much. The SP129 doesn't touch viruses. In a flood zone, after an infrastructure failure, in any environment where sewage and surface water have mixed, that gap is real. Catadin microper MP1 tablets fill it. Chlorine dioxide chemistry, 4-hour contact time, effective against bacteria, giardia, cryptosporidium, and viruses. 30-tablet blister pack, 4-year shelf life sealed, about $15. 2 independent methods. Neither alone is complete. One more thing. If you store a used Sawyer in a cold vehicle and it freezes, the hollow fiber membrane cracks at the cellular level. The filter looks intact. It isn't. That failure is invisible until the moment it costs you. Number 8, lighting. No single flashlight is an illumination system. Veterans who've worked any kind of night environment know there are 3 separate roles that 3 separate tools fill. And collapsing them into one is the mistake most people make. The Streamlight ProTac 2LX handles scanning, identification, and directed precision work. 500 lumens on high, 45 on low, 1 lumen on moonlight mode. It runs on CR123A lithium primaries or an 18650 rechargeable. Dual fuel, which matters when you want shelf-stable batteries that don't corrode in storage. Rated IPX7 for 1 meter of submersion for 30 minutes. Military standard 810H for temperature and shock. At 29 hours of runtime on low from a CR123A, this is the light you reach for when you need to find something specific. Energizer Lithium. CR123A batteries carry a 10-year shelf life. Store them correctly, and they're still working a decade from now. For sustained hands-free work, fixing something, treating someone, moving through a space where both hands need to be free, you want a headlamp. The Princeton Tech Remix Pro runs at 150 lumens white and has a 35 lumen red LED. Red mode matters because it preserves your dark adapted vision. After you've been in low light for more than a few minutes, white light collapses that adaptation instantly. Red keeps it intact. About $50, rated IPX4 for splash resistance, AAA lithium batteries for cold weather performance, and then the Chem Lights, genuine Silume Snap Light 12-hour. Chemical luminescence, no battery, no switch, no failure mode from dead cells. 4-year shelf life, NATO issued and US military standard, safe in environments where open flame is a hazard. Buy them by brand name or by confirmed military surplus. Off-brand Chem Lights routinely fail to hit their rated duration and brightness. The genuine article will outlast everything else in the kit when the other options are exhausted. 12 tubes per household, rotate on the expiry date printed on each one. Number 7. The medication cache. Field medics and corpsmen stockpile medications as critical supplies, not as an afterthought, not at the bottom of the kit, as a priority line item. Most civilian preparedness kits have a drawer of half-empty cold medicine and some expired aspirin. That's not a kit, that's a graveyard. Here's what actually belongs in a sealed rotation bin. Chewable aspirin at 325 milligrams, not for headaches or cardiac events where the instruction is to chew it, not swallow it whole. Ibuprofen at 200 milligrams for fever management and musculoskeletal injuries. Keeping in mind it shouldn't go to someone who's dehydrated. Loperamide, which is Imodium, at 2 milligrams. GI illness dehydration is a primary cause of serious morbidity in disrupted environments, and in a grid-down scenario, the contaminated water risk goes up significantly. Oral rehydration salts, either Cerolite 70 or Pedialyte powder packets, critical for GI illness recovery and heat exhaustion. Diphenhydramine at 25 milligrams for allergic reactions and stress-induced insomnia. And a SAM splint, an aluminum core foam-padded splint that folds to 4 by 3 inches, costs $7, and has an indefinite shelf life. The US military uses them. Emergency medicine uses them. Every extremity fracture or serious sprain you can't get hospital care for in the next several hours needs one. Store the bin sealed, hard-sided, at or below 77 degrees Fahrenheit, low humidity, away from light. Not the bathroom cabinet. Bathroom cabinets are humidity cycling environments from daily showers, one of the worst places to store medications. Mark the expiry date on the outside of every package in black permanent marker. Review and restock on January 1st and July 1st. Aspirin that smells like vinegar has broken down into acetic acid. Replace it regardless of the printed date. And a word on tetracycline class antibiotics specifically, do not stockpile them. They're the rare exception where expiry means toxic, not merely weak. Everything else loses potency. Tetracyclines lose safety. Number 6. Food storage. 3 tiers, 3 purposes, 1 system. Tier 1 is Mountain House in number 10 cans, not the pouches, the cans. The pouches have a 7-year shelf life. The cans are independently tested and manufacturer verified at 30 years, clocked from the manufacture date stamped on the bottom. Freeze-dried, pull-tab lid requires nothing but boiling water. MRE fatigue is real and documented, and Mountain House fills that same morale role in a civilian prep context. The hot meal item, the thing that keeps your household functional through the psychological grind of an extended disruption. It is not your caloric foundation. Your caloric foundation is white rice and pinto beans in food-grade HDPE 5-gallon buckets with 5 ml Mylar bag liners and 2,000 cubic centimeter iron-based oxygen absorbers. Not silica desiccant packs, those pull moisture. Oxygen absorbers pull oxygen. They look similar. They do completely different things. Sealed correctly below 10% humidity, the shelf life runs 25 to 30 years. One bucket of long-grain white rice contains approximately 50,000 calories. A family of 4 at 2,000 calories a day gets just over 6 days per bucket. Rice and beans together complete the amino acid profile, complementary proteins for a fraction of a cent per calorie. Don't store those buckets on concrete floors. Concrete off-gases and those vapors migrate through HDPE over years. Raised wood shelving or pallets. Tier 3 is wholeberry, hard red winter wheat in the same Mylar setup, 1,650 calories per pound, 25 to 30 years sealed. But that's the long game item. It requires a grain mill. Don't start there. Start with 4 Mountain House No. 10 cans and 2 buckets. Add everything else after your water and your medical are funded. Number 5. Navigation. GPS works until your receiver's battery dies, or until you're moving through terrain you've never actually studied on a map. Paper doesn't fail. The Silva Ranger 2.0 is a baseplate compass with a global needle that works in both hemispheres, a liquid-filled capsule rated from -40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and a rotating bezel marked in 2-degree increments. The sighting mirror allows for precision compass bearings. It also functions as a heliograph, a signal mirror effective at more than 10 miles in direct sunlight. Most people who own this compass have never thought about that. Your navigation tool has a rescue signal capability built into it, and it requires no battery. Your home county's USGS 1 to 24,000 topographic quadrangle is a free download from nationalmap.gov. It covers roughly 57 square miles in enough detail for foot navigation. Order it laminated from CalTopo or MyTopo for $10 to $15. Get the adjacent county too. Magnetic declination, the difference between true north and magnetic north, causes a 1 to 3 mile navigational error per 10 miles of travel if you don't account for it. Look yours up at ngdc.anoaa.gov. Write it on a piece of tape, put it on your compass housing. That's a 2-minute fix that removes a real failure mode. Download the map tonight. It's free. It takes 5 minutes. Number 4. Documents and cash. ATMs lose backup power within 12 to 24 hours during extended grid events. Credit card terminals go with them when the cellular backbone drops. FEMA assistance, Red Cross shelter intake, insurance emergency claims. All of them require identity verification. If you can't prove who you are, the system that might help you can't reach you. Administrative failure delays recovery longer than most gear failures do. A Pelican 1010 micro case is rated IP67, crush-proof polycarbonate, O-ring sealed, and fits in a cargo pocket. Orange is the color most visible in debris. About $20. Inside it, laminated copies of your passport card, driver's license, social security card, birth certificates for every family member, insurance policy numbers, utility account numbers, your prescription list with dosing, 2 emergency contacts with physical addresses, not just phone numbers, and your vehicle title. On a Kingston Data Traveler Bolt or any IP68 rated metal USB drive, you scan all of the above plus your medical records and property deed. 32 gigabytes is more than enough. Laminated paper is primary. It requires no power to be readable. USB is your alternate. Cloud backup fails without internet. Don't rely on it for a grid down scenario. Split your cash, $300 to $500 in a mix of 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, between the Pelican and your vehicle. Small bills, because merchants with no change will turn away a 20 before they'll turn away a 5. The whole setup costs under $60 and 90 minutes of your time to build. The Pelican goes next to your iFac or in your glove box. Done. Number 3. Power. Veterans don't buy the biggest generator first. They identify critical loads, prioritize them, and build the system at the right size. Then expand correctly. The EcoFlow Delta 2 Max is 2,048 watt-hours of lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry, or LFP. LFP matters for 2 reasons. It runs more than 3,000 full charge cycles to 80% capacity versus roughly 500 cycles for the NMC lithium chemistry in most competitors. And it's thermally more stable, which matters for a unit stored in a garage or basement long term. Rated battery life is 10 years. The unit delivers 2,400 watts of AC output with a 5,000 watt surge, charges from 0 to 80% in 65 minutes on AC, and shows real-time load draw on its display, which is how you run power triage. Power communications and medical equipment first, the refrigerator second, not the television. A 160 watt rigid monocrystalline panel for $150 to $200 gives you roughly 600 to 800 watt-hours of daily input in summer direct sun. One panel is the correct starting purchase. Add a second panel before you add an extra battery, more input before more storage. In sub-freezing temperatures, the LFP charge rate drops noticeably. Pre-warm the unit before charging in cold environments. EcoFlow runs 30 to 40% sales on Black Friday and typically again in June. Sign up for their email list and wait for a window. That brings the Delta 2 Max into the $700 to $900 range. Pair it with the panel at that price point, and you have a functional power system for under $1,100 that will outlast most of the competition's chemistry twice over. Number 2. The trauma kit. When the grid goes down and EMS is 40 minutes out, the question is not whether you have a first aid kit. The question is whether your kit can address the things that kill people in the first 10 minutes. The March algorithm. Massive hemorrhage, airway, respiration, circulation, hypothermia defines that sequence. It's the same in combat and in a civilian garage accident or car crash. The items in your IFAK either follow it or they don't. The CAT Gen 7 Tourniquet. Recommended by the Committee on Tactical Combat Casualty Care, U.S. Military Standard Issue, reaches arterial occlusion in 2 to 3 windlass turns on a correctly applied adult limb. Here's what you need to know about buying one. Amazon and eBay are documented sources of counterfeits. Authentic CAT Gen 7 construction has sonic welded seams, no stitching anywhere on the band, raised CAT lettering on the buckle, readable from both sides, writing on the back of the base plate, North American Rescue on the packaging, a hex-shaped windlass handle. Counterfeits have flat buckles, stitched or glued seams, blank base plates, and windlass rods that snap under torque. They require 10 or more turns without achieving occlusion. In 2013, 2 counterfeit tourniquets failed at a motorcycle accident in New Hampshire. In 2025, during Hurricane Helene relief operations in Buncombe County, North Carolina, a shipment of counterfeits arrived at a disaster relief point, and the majority failed field occlusion testing before they could be distributed. Those were almost handed to untrained bystanders in life-threatening emergencies. A real CAT Gen 7 costs $34.99. If it's under $25, it's fake. Buy only from NorthAmericanRescue.com or RescueEssentials.com, never from Amazon, never from eBay. Quick Clot Combat Gauze, kaolin impregnated, not the old zeolite bead formula, for wound packing and injuries where a tourniquet can't reach, neck, groin, axilla. Pack the wound. Apply firm direct pressure for a minimum of 3 minutes. Do not remove it. 5-year shelf life from manufacture, stored below 86 degrees Fahrenheit. A pair of hyphen compact chest seal vents for penetrating chest trauma. One-way vented valve, peel and stick hydrogel adhesive. One on the entry wound, one on the exit. A 28 French nasopharyngeal airway with water-based lubricant for airway maintenance, and a Mylar emergency bivy for the hypothermia component. Post-hemorrhage hypothermia accelerates coagulation failure, and it happens fast in any season. Build 2 kits. one accessible from your main living area, one in your vehicle, not the trunk. Register at stopthebleed.org for the nearest free 2-hour course. The tourniquet application is a perishable skill. Practice the wrap and windlass with your non-dominant hand every 6 months. Gear without training is decoration. Number 1. Communications. Civilians buy gear. Veterans build networks. That single sentence is the difference between a well-stocked closet and an actual preparedness system, and it's the one thing almost nobody in the civilian prepper space actually does. Cell towers have an FCC-mandated minimum of 8 hours of backup power. Many towers in high-density areas meet that minimum and nothing more. In extended grid events where fuel supply chains are disrupted, tower failures start within 24 to 72 hours. During the 2024 and 2025 Southeast grid events, cellular coverage in affected areas dropped to near zero within 48 hours. GMRS, General Mobile Radio Service, operates on UHF frequencies between 462 and 467 MHz, independent of cell towers, independent of the internet, independent of the public utility grid. It is not affected by the same failures that take your phone down. A GMRS license from the FCC costs $35, requires no examination, takes about 15 minutes to apply for online at fc.gov, covers you and every immediate family member in your household, and is valid for 10 years. That's $35 for a decade of licensed family communications infrastructure. Most licenses are issued within 24 to 48 hours. It may be the single highest value preparedness purchase on this entire list per dollar of capability. The Midland MXT115 is a 15-watt GMRS mobile radio, FCC Part 95 Echo, type accepted for legal GMRS operation, with no AA weather alert and an NMO antenna mount if you want to add an external antenna later. About $100, installs in your vehicle, runs on cigarette lighter power. The Wouxun KG935G is a 5-watt handheld, also Part 95 Echo certified, chirp programmable, rated IPX5 for water resistance, repeater capable, about $70 each. Buy 2. A note on the Baofeng UV5R. It physically transmits on GMRS frequencies. It is not FCC Part 95 Echo, type accepted for GMRS operation. The forum consensus that it's fine for grid-down use is legally incorrect, and in a high-density emergency environment, unlicensed transmissions on GMRS frequencies create real interference risk on emergency coordination channels. The price difference between a UV5R and a legally compliant Wouxun KG935G is $45. That is not a reason to buy the wrong radio. Before you buy any of this, check mygmrs.com for active repeater coverage in your area. Most metro and suburban areas have community-maintained repeater networks that extend your practical range from a few miles to 20 or 50. Check the map tonight. Here's the part most people skip. Introduce 2 or 3 of your neighbors to GMRS before there's an event. Establish a simplex channel plan for direct contact and a repeater channel if you have local coverage. Conduct a radio check with everyone before you ever need it. That is the pre-event network. The network you build before the crisis is more operationally valuable than any single item on this list. Veterans know this because they've seen what communication breakdown costs. Civilians learn it after the fact. Your communications plan in a grid-down scenario goes like this. Cell phone is primary until it fails. GMRS is your alternate for as long as you have battery or solar or a running vehicle. A crank-powered no AA weather radio is your contingency for broadcast receive, and your established neighbor network is what you fall back to when everything else is gone. That network costs nothing to build. It just requires doing it now instead of later. The grid doesn't care how much is in your garage. It cares whether your system was built and tested before it went down. Start with the $35. Make the call to your neighbors. The rest follows.